In this video, we're going to look at kinetic energy, specifically the calculations involved in finding kinetic energy. So we have three different versions of this equation, depending on which variable you're solving for. The regular form of this equation, where we're just finding kinetic energy, is 1/2 times the mass times the velocity squared. The second version of the equation here shows how to find mass, and then the third version of the equation I've rearranged to find velocity. Let's look at an example. So in this first example, it says assume the cart on the coaster you found has a mass of 3,500 kilograms. Find the energy at its peak velocity. Now, I opened this lesson with an activity where students were asked to go to the roller coaster database and find a roller coaster. So because we're not doing that in this screencast, we're going to assume that the velocity, the peak velocity of our roller coaster is 30 meters per second. So the equation that we're going to use is the KE equals 1/2 mv squared. So looking at what we need to multiply by 1/2 times the mass. In the question, it tells us our mass is 3,500 kilograms. And we're going to multiply that by the 30 meters per second. And then we're going to square that. So when we multiply this out, we get a very large number. This is 1,575,000 joules. Remember, roller coasters are very massive objects. The carts are usually made of some kind of metal, and they're moving very fast. So the amount of energy that we generate is quite significant. So let's look at this example. This is an example of a roller coaster. This is at Six Flags Over Texas, called the Titan. So as you can see from our picture here, this is a very large drop. Very large drop. So the coaster is going to be moving very fast when it reaches the bottom of this drop. So after a nearly 250-foot drop, riders on the Titan experience 2,700,000 joules of energy. If the mass of the cart is 3,800 kilograms, find its velocity. And then I've listed a conversion here to go to miles per hour. So our formula to find velocity is the square root of 2 times the kinetic energy over the mass. So let's start to plug in what we've got. So the square root of 2 times the kinetic energy, which is 2,700,000. And this is going to be over the mass, which we're told is 3,800 kilograms. And let me just kind of toss in the J there for joules. Okay, when we're carefully entering this on our calculator, be sure to use parentheses. And we're going to get an answer of 37.7 meters per second. Now, the question tells us to multiply that by 2.2 to get our answer in miles per hour. When we do that, we get an answer of 83 miles per hour. In our final example here, we're solving for the mass. It says the Valraven, that's how it's pronounced, is a steel coaster at Cedar Point. After dropping 214 feet, riders are traveling at 33.5 meters per second. The cart produces 2,500,000 joules of energy. Find the mass of the cart. So our equation for mass, finding mass, is 2 times the kinetic energy over the velocity squared. So let's plug in what we have. 2 times the kinetic energy of 2,500,000 joules over the velocity squared. We're told the velocity is 33.5 meters per second, and we're going to square that number. When we do this on our calculator, we're going to get, after rounding a little bit, 4,455, and our units of mass are kilograms.